Today I want to talk about another movie combo day that isn't really getting as much acknowledgement as it deserves right now. The combo I'm talking about is The Naked Gun and The Bad Guys 2, which both released at the very start of this month. I didn't really get to do Barbenheimer back then because I wasn't as into movies as I am now, but I eventually ended up watching both at my own pace, and I completely understand the hype behind both of them. They were both great movies within their genre, and Oppenheimer in particular is one of my favorite movies of all time. Barbie also surprised me with how clever and funny it was when it came to its themes of feminism and capitalism, and that movie scored over $1 billion at the box office, and while Oppenheimer didn't exactly achieve that milestone, it absolutely deserved its Best Picture win for its incredibly dark and emotional story that rocked me to my core in every way. Since that legendary day of cinema, I knew about other combos that tried to be like Barbenheimer, but ended up failing miserably at capturing the quality/spirit of a good double feature. I did watch Gar Furiosa back in Memorial Day weekend 2024, and Furiosa was an amazing prequel to Mad Max Fury Road, and the Garfield movie was just kind of a boring slog. I also saw Glicked back in November of last year. Wicked was an amazing musical, while Gladiator 2 was a very underwhelming sequel to what was easily one of the greatest films of the 2000s. I also remember Mufasa the Hedgehog from several months ago, but I only saw Sonic 3, which was fantastic and one of my personal favorite movies of 2024, and I didn't bother to watch Mufasa because I didn't feel like watching kids movie slop at the time. However, this time around, both movies were great, and I can't wait to talk about them. Was the combo as good as Barbenheimer? No, but I'm just gonna say it right now, this is easily one of the best movie combo days we've had since Barbenheimer. Even if it's not quite on the same level, it was still pretty damn good. Let's start by talking about the new Naked Gun, which is the fourth entry in the Naked Gun series, serving as a sequel to the Naked Gun 33 1/3, The Final Insult. The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad still remains one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. It is such a near perfect example of how to make a movie that is just pure dumb and raunchy fun in one of the best ways possible. The Naked Gun 2.5 may be a little bit of a step down from the first movie, but it still has most of its really good qualities, plus it may just have one of the funniest sex scenes ever. The Naked Gun 33 1/3 may be the weakest in the trilogy due to some lame story decisions, despite that not really being an aspect that gets taken seriously in these movies, but it's still hilariously dumb fun, especially during the climax. This new entry follows the son of Frank Drebin, named Frank Drebin Jr., played by Liam Neeson, who is trying to succeed in his late father's footsteps in order to save Police Squad from being closed, as well as trying to stop a criminal from throwing the world into chaos. I don't really have too much to say without spoiling it, so I'm just gonna lay it down right now. This movie is just as funny as the 1988 classic. From the trailers, I thought there would be more cheap jokes and moments rather than clever ones, but that turned out to be the complete opposite in the final product, because holy crap, this movie had me laughing the hardest I ever have in a movie theater, and if you watch the movie for yourself, you will most likely laugh your ass off too. The Naked Gun 2025 has all of the bells and whistles that made the original trilogy so good, like fresh, raunchy humor, and hilariously amazing performances, while also containing elements that keep the series fresh after not having a new entry in over 3 decades. Liam Neeson as a starring role captures the spirit and charm of Leslie Nielsen perfectly, having a similar line delivery, choreography, while also feeling like his own unique character at the same time. This movie also pays amazing tribute to the original trilogy. For example, there is one scene where Frank goes into a bar, and then we see the stuffed beaver from that iconic joke in the first movie, and that is only scratching the surface. The part where they took a jab at O.J. Simpson was also icing on the cake, considering how much that piece of shit played a big role in the original movies. There were also absolutely insane surprises when it came to how funny the jokes were. Some in particular that had me dying were the scenes where a spy is looking into Frank's apartment and the silhouettes are making it look like Frank and his wife are having sex when they're actually making a turkey. And there's even one nonsensical moment involving a snowman that worked really well, and that was unironically the funniest part in the whole movie for me. And that gag went on for like 5 minutes from what I can remember, but that wasn't a detriment because it had me dying, absolutely choking from laughing the whole way through. That just really shows how funny these movies truly are. It doesn't have a cohesive story, not even during the moments where Frank Jr. is remembering his dad, as those were just played off in their own Naked Gun silly ways, which I didn't mind that, and yeah, that's really all I gotta say about The Naked Gun. It was just a really fun, turn-your-brain-off movie that I would definitely go back to and watch again, and if they decide to make more, I'm all in for it. 9 out of 10. Alright, now let's talk about The Bad Guys 2. The first movie back in 2022 was actually pretty good. Sure, it had a predictable story and a handful of unfunny jokes that no one over the age of 7 would find funny, but it was a really solid villain redemption story with fantastic comic book-like, fast-paced animation, and I love how they handled the friendship arc between Wolf and Snake. It wasn't anything I'd call great, but it was definitely a fun time that I wouldn't mind rewatching every now and then. When going to the sequel, I didn't have my expectations up too high. I thought it looked like a fun heist film, but that's really about it. The plot revolves around the bad guys, a group of criminals consisting of leader and pickpocketer Mr. Wolf, voiced by Sam Rockwell, Mr. Snake, the safecracker and second in command of the group, voiced by Mark Maron, Mr. Shark, the master of disguise, voiced by Craig Robinson, Mr. Piranha, the muscle of the group, voiced by Anthony Ramos, and Miss Tarantula, the hacker, voiced by Aquafina, who have now been reformed and are trying to fit into society while also finding jobs. But due to their reputation as being criminals for years, they are still being rejected by a majority of society. But the opportunity for public redemption finally comes when they find out that a new criminal squad is following in their past footsteps and try to catch them themselves, only to get roped in with the new group known as the Bad Girls, who blackmail them by threatening to reveal Diane Foxington, aka the person who changed the bad guys' lives for the better, voiced by Zazie Beetz, dark criminal past as a notorious Crimson Paw. Being in a bad situation, no pun intended, the bad guys are forced to resort to their old tricks one last time in order to stop the bad girls' plans to pull off the ultimate heist and protect their close friend's reputation. First off, the biggest improvement this movie has over the original is easily the story. The first movie was really nothing too special in terms of its villain redemption story and was pretty surface level for the most part, in which, don't get me wrong, they pulled it off in a really solid way, but I really wish the plot wasn't that predictable and more risk-taking like every other aspect of the original movie. Thankfully, the sequel vastly improves on that aspect and really gives us a story with a lot of twists and turns that really took me by surprise when I watched it. I love the way they showcase the bad guys trying their best to fit in with society, and the way they utilize all the members of the team is really awesome. While I did appreciate the first movie focusing on the dynamic between Wolf and Snake's friendship really well, I felt like the other three members of the group just didn't really get too much to do in the movie, and a lot of their moments just kind of felt like afterthoughts. Here, I feel like every character gets a really good chance to shine, and all of them are really great and memorable with the performances the voice actors managed to pull off as well. One of my favorite gags has to be when they sneak into a wedding and Shark disguises himself as an Italian guy and Craig just starts doing these bad Tony Soprano-like impressions, and that was just super funny. I also love what they do with Diane Foxington and her past as a worldwide criminal coming back to haunt her after she turned over a new leaf a long time ago, along with her coming off as even more of a kick-ass fighter, more so than she was in the first movie. I also really like her relationship with Wolf, as they do a really great job picking up from their moments in the previous film, and the ones they have here are extremely wholesome. Even Commissioner Luggins, played by Lois Griffin is really entertaining in this movie and plays a crucial role in the bad guy's mission. I also really think that Kitty is a great and intimidating villain who poses as a really badass threat, and Danielle Brooks' performance really makes her a force to be reckoned with. The animation is another aspect that makes this movie just feel so alive, as this movie uses anamorphic lenses to widen its scope and cinematic scale, and boy does it show, especially during those mesmerizing action sequences where, just like Spider-Verse, makes this movie feel like a comic book come to life. There are even moments where they switch up the art style for a split second, such as when a character reacts to something, they can be drawn in a 2D anime style, and as someone who adores it when Western animation pays homage to Japanese animation/anime, I absolutely ate this up. There were a couple of cringe-worthy lowbrow scenes like fart jokes and some weird moments that admittedly did make me a little bit uncomfortable, and just like the first movie with the other three bad guys, I do think the other two bad girls that aren't Kitty don't really get too much to do, like too much to shine in this movie, but those are really my only real small complaints, as this movie really does feel like a big step up from the original in almost every way. Definitely go check this movie out in theaters if you haven't already, and even if you weren't a big fan of the first movie, I still recommend you go check this out in theaters, as it improves on almost every single aspect of the first movie in the best way possible, and man, does it feel good to have a good DreamWorks sequel after we haven't really had one since Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. 9 out of 10. I'm gonna have to admit, I still don't know which movie I like more, as I really had a blast watching both of them in my own ways, and I enjoyed them a lot more than I initially thought I would. If you need some fast, fun-paced action cinema to wrap up your summer, these movies would be great choices. Now, all we gotta do is wait for Avatar: The Search for Square Ashes in December, and that is definitely gonna be one of the double features of all time. Anyways, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more movie, TV, and game analysis, and keep calm and let life carry you on.